Thanks for joining us. You're watching Notepad with me, Ibrahim Sani. Today we shall look at how Malaysian companies can look at Africa as a market to export. Joining me is a panel, including Her Excellency, the Ambassador for Namibia, Her Excellency Namakau Mutelo, RJ Liow, a trade exporter himself, and of course from MEXPA, Dr. Sevaran Kaur Dhalliwal. We'll start with Dr. Sevaran. Let's talk a little bit about MEXPA. What is MEXPA all about?
Good morning, Malaysia. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, young man. Okay, we are here from Malaysian Exporters Association, and that's a short name. We call it MEXPA. And MEXPA was established in 2011, and it has a dedicated team of members who have been working very hard since the setup of the organization. And this is our 7th celebration, which we are doing on the 25th of October, where we are bringing in, we are focusing on Africa as the new frontier. And along with this, what I would like to say is that we have a very good person leading the whole organization, and he's Dr. Kabur Ibrahim, our president, who has been with MITI for the last 15 years, and he has also served South Africa, and he has also served Belgium.
So how is MEXPA, I guess, having a relationship with MITI and Martrade? Are they related?
No, we complement each other. MEXPA actually complements MITI and Martrade and other trade bodies. We work together, and our main focus is to assist mostly Martrade into going into countries where there are no trade offices or where there are no embassies, and this normally happens in smaller countries.
And so when you say smaller countries, what do you mean by that?
I wouldn't say actually more like lesser developed countries. Like we have covered in this few years, we have covered many countries, especially the whole of Southeast Asian region we have covered, Middle East countries we have covered, some European countries we have covered, and now our main focus, we find that Malaysian businessmen have not seen the, have not explored Africa, and Africa is such a big country and
of course,
huge country full of opportunities.
Continent, yeah, Africa is such a huge continent.
Every Malaysian businessman should go there, and Malaysia and MEXPA is ready to take you.
Oh, okay, so RJ, let's talk about your relationship, not just with MEXPA, but as a trade exporter yourself. You're a business owner, you export, and you have been exporting for a number of years to various markets, including the African market. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your experiences.
Yeah, Africa has been fantastic. I probably could be the early adopter for this market from the Malaysian point of view. We started exporting to Africa since 1994, so it's a long time ago. And while the focus for the exporters have been the traditional markets like maybe China, Indochina, the ASEAN. But 1994, we decided to take a look at this continent far away from us. And we started from the country called Nigeria. And although there's a lot of concern, the skepticism about this continent, but the return has been fantastic for us. That was about 15, 20 years ago. I worked for a company called UNZA. After I move out, do my own business, I like to continue with this new finding. This is why I've been working on the western part of Africa more, because they are probably more open, and the demand for our personal care. I'm in the personal care industries. Mm-hmm. So this category of product has been very welcoming. When we moved to Africa, then we realized that how attractive and how important our JAKIM Halal certification logo is. Because in that part of the world, they recognize probably two icons. First is our Prime Minister, Tun M. Second will be the Halal JAKIM logo. So these two have been helping us in terms of Malaysian exporters to compete and as a competitive advantage when we move on to the new frontier.
When we talk about demand, maybe we can talk a little bit about, Madam Ambassador yourself, what kind of demand is coming in, not just from Namibia and the African continent, but the kind of relationship that we can have between Southeast Asia and Malaysia with Africa and Namibia?
Thank you very much for having me, Ibrahim, and I also want to thank the fellow panelists. And I'm also happy that they are organizing this gala dinner, which will focus on Africa. Africa is actually the new frontier. I wouldn't even call it a new frontier. It has always been there. It's only that it's waiting to be entered, to be explored by Malaysian companies. What we have noticed is that Malaysia has not really been focusing on Africa for the last 15 years. When the last time Tun Mahathir was the Prime Minister, that's when we had South-South cooperation, and that is where he focused on Africa. But unfortunately, the previous administrations of Malaysia have ignored Africa. But we are happy that Tun Mahathir is back, and he has actually reassured us that he will now, the new administration, the new Malaysian government will again revitalize their relations with Africa. Africa is a young continent. As you know, in Southeast Asia, in Europe, the populations are aging. But in Africa, we have a vibrant young population. The majority of the population is below 30 years old. So that is actually the future, even for Malaysian products, for Southeast Asian products. That's why we are so excited about this forthcoming dinner, where the focus will be Africa. By the way, we are 21 African embassies based in Malaysia. This is the highest in Southeast Asia, you know, because in other countries where the headquarters of ASEAN is in Indonesia, but there are only 12 African embassies there. While in Malaysia, we are 21. Why are we here? It's because of Tun Mahathir. He's the one, when he was the fourth Prime Minister, he reached out to Africa, and that's why we are here. And we want to be here, but we want to increase trade and exports between Africa and Malaysia, because at the moment it's a one-way traffic. You are in West Africa, I'm happy, and I know that most of the countries in North Africa, West Africa, East Africa, they've got a lot of trade. But in Southern Africa, apart from South Africa, that's why we want to, the focus should be on the whole Africa. We are 55 unique, sovereign, independent countries. By the way, Africa is a continent, it's not one country.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Yes,
we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more about the demand coming in from the African continent. Stay here. Thanks for staying on with us. You're watching Notepad. I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. Today we shall talk about the African continent and how Malaysian companies can think about exporting in that area and exploring new markets. We'll start off with the Ambassador. Madam Ambassador, let's talk about the kind of experiences that you can share with us in terms of the kind of businesses that African companies can come here as well as Malaysian companies can go there. What kind of areas that would be interesting to explore, particularly the sectors that are high performing and would have the highest potential of growth?
Thank you very much once again, Ibrahim. First of all, let me mention the study which was carried out by McKinsey Global Institute. It's called Lions on the Move, the Progress and Potential of African Economies. This study was published at the end of 2015, but is still relevant, where it is focusing on the potential for Africa. The projects that Malaysian companies and Southeast Asian companies can focus on for Africa is infrastructure development, the food and beverage industry, because as you know, we are a population of over 1 billion people, the African population. So that is something where you can have Malaysian products. He mentioned about the halal industry. I think that is the industry that maybe Malaysia is overlooking, because it's also very big in Africa. And actually, when I came to Malaysia, that's when I realized the importance of halal, you know. And this is one industry that Malaysia can explore, so that you can export Malaysian halal products to all over the world. In my part of Africa, Southern Africa, we have a large Muslim population in South Africa, as well as in other countries. West Africa, you've already mentioned. Nigeria, we have a large population. In Ethiopia, we have a large Muslim population. But halal products are not only supposed to focus on Muslim communities, because in other Christian communities as well, we also have people who appreciate and consume halal, just like halal kosher product. But the focus areas, project that we need real assistance is infrastructure development, our agricultural sector, where we need the equipment to be able to produce our own food. Because at the moment there are more exports. You know, we get a lot of, for example, in my part of the world, we get a lot of food from abroad, especially South Africa, but that's good because it's a good neighborliness and regional integration.
RJ, let's talk about some of the operational issues that are maybe good or bad for Malaysian exporters that are experiencing currently. If I am a business owner and I'm sitting at home right now watching this interview, what would be the kind of considerations that I must think about when I want to export my products into Africa?
You see, the biggest challenge, in my opinion, is that I've been working in this export for many years. Our biggest obstacle, I would say, is the distribution, finding the right partner. You see, in the international business, because far away from home, we really need a trusted partner on the other side. Somebody can pay, somebody can take the product into the market and sell. But despite all our, in general, Malaysian quality, product quality is good. I think it's no complaint, and we have a added advantage with the halal logo. We come to that part. I think the exporter in Malaysia always the number one challenge is always the partner. So I've been speaking to Maltrade and speaking to embassies, requesting for proposed potential prospect distributor in that part of the world. This part is difficult because in the business world, the most reliable conversion rate is from a referrer that we know distributor, but this is very lacking. I hope this is where the embassies, where Maltrade can help us more, not just giving us 1,000 names, that doesn't really help. If one name or two names with a proper screening of their business nature in that part of the world and refer us to talk to them, the chance is a lot higher. I think to me, I would say probably representing 80% of the views from the exporter is the challenges in screening and signing up a brand partner in that part of the world.
I mean, Madam Ambassador, you touched upon that very interesting idea. There's over 20 embassies of African nations here in Malaysia. And like in any other way of doing things, diplomacy comes first. We set up embassies, we set up trade missions, we have literally ambassadors, be it diplomatic ambassadors or business ambassadors, and then we can perhaps then go into the business communities and help them specifically address these kind of terms. And this is where we want, right? The high quality referrers. So it seems like we're on the right direction in terms of building that kind of relationship. So that's why, before we jump into any further, Dr. Sevaran, maybe you can share with us how MEXPA can help specifically in addressing these kind of concerns. We've got diplomacy up right and center. We've got the business owners addressing their concerns. How is it that MEXPA helping these kind of concerns specifically?
You see, at the moment, we also have a trade arm, and that is called Malaysian Exporters Academy. And in this academy, we conduct a lot of seminars. We conduct a lot of talks. We also bring in a lot of support from Maltrade we get, where Maltrade gives a lot of incentive to the business people. So MEXPA is there to help. So come and join us in our events that we have. And eventually along the line, we will see that you get what you want, like you're a trader or you're a manufacturer. We will link you to the right person, the right African sector individual, and that unexplored market is something that we definitely need.
No, Ibrahim, I just wanted to focus on there are about 6 areas in which Malaysian companies, Southeast Asian companies can focus when they want to trade in Africa. It's wholesale and retail, food and agri-processing, healthcare, financial services, and light manufacturing and construction. As I've already told you, infrastructure development is very important, because if we have our products, it might be easy to move them around Africa and also to Malaysia and Southeast Asia. That's what I also wanted to focus on.
Okay, good. We'll take a short break. This is a very fascinating conversation. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll discuss more on Malaysian exporters, exporting products and services into the African continent. Thanks for staying on with us. We are watching Notepad. I'm your host Ibrahim Sani. Today we shall talk about and continue our discussion about Malaysian exporters selling our products and services to Africa and trying to see what the African continent can actually give us in terms of their products and their services as well. RJ, again, sorry to out you on your age, but you've been around for quite some time. Yeah. And with age comes experience. Yeah. What kind of things that you wish you could have more of from the current situation right now in making your businesses and your peers, the business owners in Malaysia, actually do business a little bit more smoother in the African continent?
Yeah. I mean, in business world, there are a lot of challenges, especially in the international side. But international side has been the wonderful market especially for Malaysian. And we have one biggest advantage, which is in the halal industry. So in the 25 years, I think, in the business and many in the export side, I realized that still back to the important 4 Ps, right? People talk about 4 Ps, product, pricing, distribution, and promotion. I still remain the advocate that distribution is always the number one criteria. No matter how good your product is, if you do not have that particular praise or the distribution, right, and the partners in the Africa region, then almost virtually you cannot export. You see, every day I've been looking at the 55 countries. I write to a lot of embassies. I talk to my peers in the industry. Hopefully they can refer me to some other countries. Our success has been limited because of the lacking of the quality of referrers. So this is really the number one. If you ask me what's the most single thing that maybe cannot sleep at night, will be that particular connection. Connecting exporters from Malaysia to the quality leads in Africa, the West, East, South, North, right? That we can able to talk to and communicate starting from there into our product and services. The other thing is the lack of understanding of the infrastructure of importing the products. So that you may create a lot of some concern about the import duty, how the custom works. So this is lacking of clarity. So as per exporter, we need to know exactly how much going to our pricing structure. Therefore, you can price the products to be competitive, to compete with the market. When the clarity of the cost, entry cost is not clear, right, and coming from a party which you're not full confidence, they will pay us to, okay, never mind, we just leave it. Yeah. So this is the 2 major concerns for exporters.
RJ, that's very interesting, right? I mean, we've talked at length about distribution, but pricing is also an important thing. Dr. Sevaran, I mean, as a business owner, you think about one thing only, cost. So right now, when we want to enter a new market, there's always the question of, do we need trade partners? Do we need MEXPA? Do we need MATRADE? Do we need MITI? Or let's just go gung-ho and Rambo the whole thing and then land myself in an African country and then do the business there myself?
I think one should go through an organization. And now that in Malaysia we have, besides MITI, we have MATRADE, which is the trade arm, and it's really very helpful. It is helping the SMEs, small traders, small medium traders. It's helping all businessmen. So I think businessmen should come through an organization.
How does this add to the cost? Is it going to be costly?
Of course. Just look at the MATRADE, and they are giving us so many sort of grants, and then through MEXPA we get a lot, as I mentioned, Malaysian Exporters Academy, giving you advisory services. They give you so many other services in line, and they even have a meeting one-to-one. You can come and discuss with us, and we can let you know the ways how to go about. And I think to save cost and all that, you see, MATRADE, they even have in other countries trade exhibitions. Go with them. They give you the booth and promote your product. So in that way, your cost is saved. Instead of you going into a new market and not knowing what's on the other side of it. So I think, and taking risk, that's what is happening in most cases, you see. And that shouldn't, I think. It's good to go through an organization, especially where the government is all out to help. And Malaysian businessmen, you all are very lucky. We see so many good opportunities for all of you.
All right, Madam Ambassador, this is the most important thing. In anything, from diplomacy to business, it's always important to meet midway, right? We've heard your, I guess, mission statement. You want infrastructure, you want transportation in terms of moving the goods around, moving people around. There's some sectors that you highlight, including that of healthcare and food and services. And we in Malaysia are poised to actually come out and bridge that requirements and demand. Do you have an aspiration into the kind of things that you want to see happening really soon, maybe 1 year to come and maybe 5 years to come? What kind of changes do you expect to happen between Namibia, the African continent, with that of, say, Malaysia and Southeast Asia?
Thank you very much once again, Ibrahim. The important thing is for Malaysian exporters, business people, to visit Africa to see what is available. He has already been there in West Africa for some years. I think it's important that we invite other exporters because, you know, most of them have the fear of the unknown. They don't know what to expect. But by the way, these days we have, in medicine they call Dr. Google. In this case, we can say we have the economist Google. So if you are not sure about anything, you can Google, but you are also welcome to visit any of our 21 embassies around here in KL to find out. But in the case of Namibia, for example, incentives for exporters and manufacturers are already online, just like with all my other African countries. But if you don't get the information online, you are welcome to visit Namibia Embassy, Egypt Embassy, Zimbabwe Embassy, all the 21 African countries based here. That's why we are here. It's for us to interact with Malaysian business people. By the way, most of our diplomacy these days, Ibrahim, is economic diplomacy. We want to see wherever we are. It's no more politics, because politics is an old era. We are now focusing on trade, on economics, on investments. What can I get as a Namibian ambassador? What must I get to take to Namibia? At least one investment during my tour of duty. This is what we are focusing on. All of us African ambassadors here, as well as Malaysian ambassadors all over the world. So I think it's very important that we get to know each other by visiting each other's countries. Malaysia, please visit Africa. Africa, visit Malaysia to see what are the potentials. Malaysia has got a huge potential, as well as Southeast Asia. As you know, you are 650 million people in this part of the world. So it's a huge market for African products. And also, Africa is also a huge market for Malaysian and Southeast Asian products. So please, we have started the conversation, but let's go and do fact-finding missions. Please, you are welcome. You take one part of Africa, Southern, East Africa, West Africa, North Africa, you cover even 5 countries, because you know the countries are near each other. It's just like here, Malaysia is centrally located, and you can go to Thailand, you can go to, you know, Philippines, Indonesia. I think we have started the conversation. Let it continue, and let it materialize in making sure that our two regions and continent and Southeast Asia come together closer in this century. That is my appeal, that let us have trade missions to Africa so that we know what to expect. Because hearing from Ambassador Mutelo is very easy. You know, I'll paint a very big, beautiful picture of Namibia, of Africa, but when you get on the situation there, you can be disappointed. So I think it's important to have fact-finding missions. Let us see what is available.
And decide for ourselves.
Yes,
and
don't just believe what Ambassador Mutelo is telling you. Just go and see. We call it go and see visits. That would be nice. Let us have trade missions so that you can actually see what is on the ground.
Right.
Maybe on this point, I would just like to add in something. That a trade mission is being organized to Madagascar. We're also looking at October, and we want to start off soon as possible. And in fact, we have beautiful relationship with all the embassies here in this country.
Right. And it's going to be fantastic for these kind of
all right. And we want to make this program a success for all Malaysian CEOs and companies to come by.
On that note, we have to draw this conversation to a close. If you've missed any part of this interview, just head on to astronomy.com, search for Notepad. Also, you can go to the Awani app and view the conversations there. You can download the app wherever you get your app. Until then, thanks very much for watching, and goodbye. All right, perfect.
Ibrahim, congratulations.